In this video, we'll be taking a look at our top 10 best PlayStation 3 games of all time. This list will only be covering games that were released as exclusives, so keep that in mind. With that being said, let's get right into this with number 10. Number 10, Resistance 2. If you were buying a PlayStation 3 at launch, the first Resistance game was the marquee title to pick up. And while that game was good, Insomniac took it to another level with Resistance 2. The game had an absolutely chaotic and extremely fast-paced multiplayer mode supporting up to 64 players. The multiplayer was a blast, but the single player was also pretty good, featuring gigantic in scale boss fights and a well-paced story. If you're a fan of first-person shooters, Resistance 2 was one of the best you could pick up on the console. Unfortunately, the servers have been taken down, but man, it was fun while it lasted. Number 9, LittleBigPlanet. Media Molecule created one of the most unique games on the PlayStation 3, designed around the motto of play, create, and share. We weren't really expecting something amazing out of LittleBigPlanet, but that's exactly what it was. If you didn't even touch the creation tools, what you'll find is an incredibly well-made platformer. If you just play the game from start to finish, you'd be satisfied, but then you introduce the ability to design your own levels and share them online. The game essentially had an endless amount of content, and the amount of work that was being put into some of the levels was staggering. LittleBigPlanet is a superb game. Number 8, Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch. The PlayStation 3's library is loaded with great JRPGs, but none as good as Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch. The story is fantastic with top-tier writing, the soundtrack is excellent, and who could forget the gorgeous Studio Ghibli visuals. While the cartoonish look might put off some people, there is an incredible amount of detail in Ni no Kuni. The entire world is built with such attention to detail. The only real complaint about the game is that some of the characters fell a bit flat, but outside of that, this is a near-perfect JRPG. If you're a fan of the genre, this is a must-play. Number 7, Killzone 2. Killzone 2 was one of the most anticipated PlayStation 3 exclusives for a long time. From the misleading trailers to the delays, it was quite a journey leading up to the release of Killzone 2. The anticipation was so high that it's hard to say whether or not it lived up to the hype, but regardless, Killzone 2 was a fantastic game. Arguably the best multiplayer shooter on the console and leaps and bounds better than the first Killzone game, although that's not really saying much. Outside of the great gameplay, the graphics were also the best we had seen on a console up to that point. While not as great as the trailers led you on to believe, it was quite a good looking game. Killzone 2 stands out as one of the most memorable shooters on the PS3, and the servers are still up so you can find the game even to this day. Number 6, Infamous 2. Sucker Punch became one of the most respected developers in the PS2 era for their work on the Sly Cooper games. However, they took a completely different route on the PS3 with Infamous, an open-world superhero game with a strong emphasis on moral decisions. While it was different than Sly Cooper, it was excellent all the same. Infamous 2 refined everything that made the original great, and keep in mind, up to that point, open-world games were still finding their footing, so seeing the world in Infamous 2 was jaw-dropping. The gameplay was excellent, flying around from rooftop to rooftop was so fun, and the combat was great. If you've never played Infamous, play through all of them, they are all great. Number 5, Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain was developed by Quantic Dream, the guys behind Indigo Prophecy. The game is an interactive drama similar to games such as Telltale's Walking Dead, but obviously with a much bigger budget. The game follows the mystery of the Origami Killer, a serial killer. The story is an integral part of Heavy Rain, so for those that haven't played it, I won't get more into it, but just know it's an absolutely engrossing and thrilling plot from beginning to end, with excellent voice acting, character development, and a lot of twists and turns. If you have yet to play Heavy Rain, you should know that there's a remastered version available on the PS4. Play it ASAP. Number 4, Demon's Souls. At this point, Souls has become one of the most prominent franchises in all of gaming. It all began back in 2009 with Demon's Souls. No one really knew at the time that the series would explode into the phenomenon that it is today. When Demon's Souls was released, it was so different compared to everything else on the market. As games shifted more towards holding your hands, Demon's Souls brought back the challenge and reward of playing a difficult game. With its excellent combat, great visual aesthetics, and environments, Demon's Souls was amazing. If you want to know how Souls began, you have to go back and play Demon's Souls. It's still a great game 7 years later. Number 3, Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. Uncharted has become one of the standard bearers for not only PlayStation games, but games in general. From the action-packed gameplay, the witty humor, the well-paced story, Uncharted gets it right in almost every area. And the height of the series so far was Uncharted 2. If you look at the difference between 2007's Uncharted and 2009's Uncharted 2, it's absolutely staggering what Naughty Dog was able to accomplish in just 2 years. The original Uncharted was a good game, but it had clear problems holding it back. With Uncharted 2, all those problems had been erased, creating a phenomenal game. And outside of the excellent single player, they were able to include a competent multiplayer mode as well. If you've never played the Uncharted games, you obviously should, and you can pick up the Nathan Drake collection on the PS4, which includes all 3 of the PS3 titles remastered. Number 2, Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots. Metal Gear Solid 4 was probably the first game that made people jump out and say, I need to get a PS3. Up until that point, the library of games was kind of lacking and it really needed a jolt. Well, MGS4 definitely provided for that jolt. Wrapping up the story of Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 4 offered everything the series was known for. Ambition, refined gameplay, and engrossing world and story in nearly every area. MGS4 excelled at it. The game also introduced Metal Gear Online, which was pretty good. The servers have since been shut down. It's hard to say that MGS4 was the best of the Metal Gear games since they were all so good. Just know that it's a must-play experience. And finally, number 1, The Last of Us. 2013 really marked the last marquee year for the PlayStation 3. The PS4 was right around the corner, and you could tell the PS3's days had started coming to a close. And what better finale than a new IP from Naughty Dog with The Last of Us? A post-apocalyptic third-person shooter completely different in presentation and tone compared to their other game, Uncharted, but a masterpiece all the same. The main characters in Joel and Ellie are two of the most well-developed characters in a game ever. The story is excellent, and it will keep you engaged the whole time. From a technical perspective, amazing. And after the single player, you have a decent multiplayer component too. The Last of Us is an amazing game, and if you haven't played it, you can pick up the remastered edition on the PS4. That version runs at 1080p and 60 FPS, and it includes the Left Behind DLC. So that wraps up our countdown of the top 10 best PlayStation 3 games of all time. This was a very hard list to make. The console had so many great games that we had to leave some off the list, such as Ratchet & Clank Future and Gran Turismo. Let us know what you think. Do you agree with our list? Disagree? Let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.